So every now and then I record a video over at Patreon, and it just stands out as something that I'd like to share it with everyone, and the patrons who help support my work are cool enough to let me share it with you guys. This video is all about investment bias. So what you're about to hear has been pre-recorded. I recorded it back in October, and I was just thinking to myself, what might be useful based on the coachings that I'm hearing, because most of the videos I create are based on what you guys ask for, and the issues that a lot of my personal clients seem to be having, and I'm really looking for some comments down below. I want to see if this video resonated with you guys, and maybe you've even experienced something like this before. And if you have, leave a comment below, tell me what you thought of it. Let's have a conversation. Hope you enjoyed today's video. Something kind of interesting happens when you invest a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of maybe even money into another person. Something interesting called investment bias. Now, this is pretty much when you have invested, like I said, so much time, money, etc., into a person only for it not to work out. And it's sort of the antithesis of something like gambling, right? Now, if I'm sitting in, I live in New Jersey, so if I'm sitting at Atlantic City and doing some gambling, or Vegas, or wherever there's a casino or something like that, I understand innately that I'm going in and potentially losing money. I understand that I'm going to invest money that I may never get back. If you go into a stock market, though there is a bit more security than a casino, depending on who you talk to, I understand that I'm going to invest money, and it could go well, or it could go bad, and that's part of the game. But when we're dealing with people, that seems like something, such a foreign idea, so foreign, that we're going to invest all this time, all this money, all this love into a person only for it to crumble. And that is something that we find so difficult to deal with. I myself have been I guess I'll say victim to something like this. There was somebody in my life at a time who I invested a lot into only for the relationship not to work out and for me not to really be left with any option and no way back to that person. And so it hurts a lot because not only have you taken a hit insofar that you've been rejected, but you've also taken a hit in terms of your means, right? So that is your emotional budget, your financial budget, your mental and intellectual budget. You invested in this person, and now they're not investing back in you, and this can be very harmful because a lot of us carry around this idea of like, but you owe me. Look at all these things I did for you. Now, this can be in many different situations. It doesn't always need to involve money specifically, right? This could involve emotional means. For example, staying with a partner who has depression, and you are there for them through their darkest moments. And when they pull themselves out of that hole with your help, and the relationship goes on, and perhaps you enter a dark moment, but they're not as available for you. Now, this doesn't even need to be with dating. This could be with nothing but friendship, completely platonic. And you'll notice that sometimes people don't reciprocate in the way that you reciprocated. It can be particularly difficult because it's a blow to the ego, and it's also a blow to who we thought these other people were. But what we have to understand is that a lot of the time when we're investing all this time and energy into the person, it's not necessarily asked for. And a lot of the time we do this knowing that this other person owes us nothing in return. Now, morality enters the picture because now we're talking about morals. And, well, yeah, fine, they don't owe me anything, but it's the right thing to do. I was there for them. Now they're not here for me. Right? Well, morality is based on a perception of morality rather than what is moral. Perhaps the other person sees it completely differently. Like, yeah, you were there, you were doing a good thing for me, but I'm not attracted to you. And is it morally correct of me to stay in a relationship where I am no longer feeling attraction? Because that's lying. And it's not morally correct to lie to you. So you see, the conversation gets so much bigger and so much more confusing than we want it to be. However, I firmly believe in the idea of, and I hate to put it this way, but brownie points, right? If you've done good to me, and you were a good person to me when I was down and out, then I will be a good person to you. And for me, that's something that I carry with me as a moral. It's not necessarily an eye for an eye, but it's just that idea that I am more likely to feel affection towards you when you help me during a time where I am not helping myself. So, like all things, if you invest in a person who is not returning the investment, you need to make a decision out of love for yourself. Transcend whatever suffering that you're dealing with so that you can live a happier, healthier life. If you're in a situation with somebody where you find that you're not being valued to the degree in which you would like, first and foremost, tell them. If they've broken up with you and we're past that point, well, you need to ask yourself seriously when you've dug yourself out of the emotional rut, if this is somebody you want to spend your life with and somebody you want to pursue reconciling with, knowing how they are, knowing what they act like, knowing what their baseline is for investment. Treat your emotions like money. Is this somebody you want to invest your money in? Is that a safe emotional investment in your emotional bank? That's a question only really you can answer. So let's hear some comments below. Have you dealt with a situation where you invested far more than the other person did? Now, did you overinvest, or did you invest just the right amount? What can be particularly harmful about all of this stuff that we've just spoken about is the idea that, well, if I invested in somebody and they weren't able to return the investment, is that my flaw? If you're this close to me and you could do this to me, or rather, my investment in you was all for nothing, is that a flaw or a trait like being gullible that I wish I didn't have? Am I carrying this into other relationships? And this really stems from the whole idea of expectation. Now, I expect that when I invest in somebody to a certain degree, I will get a certain degree of return on my investment. Expectations are based on what ought to be rather than what is. In other words, we're basically taking an idea of a person and we're fitting this idea into who they are. And if they ever break out of that idea, we see it as a sort of betrayal, not so much in what they did, but how we felt about what they did. Or more specifically, how they acted. When we hear the word betrayal, we think literally betrayal, cheating or lying, something like that. But sometimes betrayal can be based on an idea, right? I thought that when my moment of chaos came, you would be able to support me. And this very much follows along the line of brownie points, or perhaps a sense of fairness. Hey, I invested X into you, and I demand the return on my investment, and if I get something that I personally do not deem as fair, well then I've been gypped. All of this is based on an expectation of who we thought the other person was, rather than who they actually are in reality. So sometimes it can feel like a very personal problem, because now not only do we have to design our way of interacting with that person, but now we also have to question if there's that internal flaw. Really, there's no right way to go about handling this. It's trial and error. Sometimes you think a person is one way, but they're actually another way. That other way doesn't mean it's bad, it just means it's different. So what might be a good way to combat all of these different thoughts and feelings? Well, sit the other person down. Talk about your realistic expectations for the relationship. Talk about what you are getting, what you feel like you could be getting a little more, and also how you can give. Take personal responsibility for the things that you find to be your fault, and address when you think it's a bit more of them. It's important to do much more communicating through listening than talking. Because oftentimes when we do all the talking, or rather, when we talk to get our needs but don't fully listen back to what the other person needs, that's how misunderstandings like this can begin in relationships. Investment bias is particularly hurtful because we invest what we think they need rather than what they might actually need. It can be harmful to us because we don't get what we need. So all of this starts from a basis of miscommunication. I didn't fully hear what the other person needed. I gave them what I thought they needed. In other words, love languages. So, to bring it a step further, if my partner needs a lot of physical attention and affection, but I'm only really ever giving them monetary affection or perhaps quality time, but they need physical touch, well then I'm giving them something. And in my mind, look, I'm giving you all this attention and affection. I can point to what I'm doing. But in their mind, yes, you're giving me what you would want, or rather how you express love, but maybe that's not making me feel loved. Maybe I need more hand-holding, or hugs, or whatever it might be. And obviously that goes the other way. You should be able to tell your partner, here's the type of love language that makes me feel love. And maybe you are doing a lot of acts of service, but maybe I prefer more gifts. Part of love is compromise. And knowing that your partner likes more words of affirmation or physical touch, and that's how they feel the most amount of love, is one of the best ways that you can invest in their happiness. And in return, you should feel free to be able to tell them, look, here's what I need. Here's what I need from you to be more happy. I hope this video made sense because we spanned across a couple different topics, including the love languages, the investment bias, the expectation versus reality. And really what it comes down to is that love can sometimes be complicated, but one of the best ways that we can make it through is simply by communicating our needs. And if we do it in a way where we believe the other person is hearing us and fully taking in what we have to say, it all gets much, much easier. I want to give a huge shout out to my patrons who make it possible that I can bring some of these videos to the greater YouTube community. And I believe on Patreon, we're up to video number 96. So there's 96 more videos and, of course, the live streams that everybody looks forward to. Speaking of, we're going to be doing a live stream next Wednesday. It will be happening. And I'm going to release the specific time closer to because I'm not sure what time yet. But it will be happening on Wednesday. And I hope to see you all there. I'll talk to you next time.